Hi everyone, it's an honor to be sharing Torah on this platform. A huge thank you to Chayei and the team for putting together these videos every week. This week is Parshat Chayei. It's also the yortzeit of Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. And I remember 2 years ago when Rabbi Sachs passed away, I went to his website, Covenant Conversation, to find something maybe on a previous year on Chayei that I would connect to. And I remember seeing there, lo and behold, there was a new Dvar Torah on Parshat Chayei. I remember thinking, how did he do it? The entire world was mourning his death, his loss, the tragic loss of the Jewish people. And Rabbi Sachs himself didn't seem to get the memo because he's still writing Divrei Torah. How is that possible? How is he still putting things out? And there was a little note at the bottom. It said, lest you be wondering how this is possible, Rabbi Sachs had submitted an entire year's worth of Covenant and Conversation Divrei Torah to be published. And so now they were going to be releasing them 1 week at a time. Sure enough, they were all collected, put together in this new book, which just came out. And the Dvar Torah that was put out that week, Parshat Chayei 2 years ago, was about Avraham passing away and the legacy that Avraham left behind him and the connection between what Rabbi Sachs said about Avraham and what I believe could be said about Rabbi Sachs himself. I found beautiful and chilling. I want to share it with you. Rabbi Sachs asked the following. He says, our Parsha has 2 stories, and they're a little slow. Okay, we have Avraham, we have buying the field for Sarah to bury Sarah, his wife, and we have Avraham finding a wife for Yitzchak. And these stories, they just take up a lot more space than they need to. If you look at previous stories in Breshit, things move quickly. There's a lot of stories in last week's Parsha. Things go, and yet in this week, it's the 4 Leahs on the whole story with the camels. It seems out of character for the Torah. It seems strange the Torah spends so much time focusing on these 2 stories. Rabbi Sachs explains, in classic Rabbi Sachs fashion, that these 2 stories are actually the most important stories in Avraham's life. And here's why. Avraham was promised that he would get a land, you would have the land of Israel. And he was promised that his children would be like the dust of the earth and the stars of the sky, and he would have all these generations coming from him. And yet, here he is. His wife just passed away. And he doesn't own a single inch of land. And he does not have a single grandchild. And so Avraham now becomes active and tries to put those promises into action. He goes ahead and he goes through the entire bureaucratic process of making sure he has a piece of land in Israel. And then he goes through the arduous process of trying to find a wife for his son. And yes, we go through every detail of it, because that at that moment is the most important thing for Avraham to be continuing his generations forward. And sure enough, by the time we get to next week's Parsha, Avraham now has 2 grandchildren. Rabbi Sachs writes, Avraham acquired only a single field and had just 1 son who would continue the covenant. And yet he died serene and satisfied because he had begun. Because he had left future generations something on which to build. All great change is the work of more than 1 generation, and none of us will live to see the full fruit of our endeavors. It sounds like lo alecha hamlacha ligmor. It's not on you to finish. You just need to set it in place. Rabbi Sachs said this about Avraham. I think this would have been beautiful. I think Rabbi Sachs would have found this beautiful to know that this was published in his name the week that he died, because Rabbi Sachs himself spent his life putting ideals about Judaism, about humanity into the world. And his legacy is knowing that other people will continue this work forward. I think there are 2 lessons here. Lesson number 1 is that from Avraham until Rabbi Sachs and everyone in between, our leaders, our people before us have put forth these ideals about Judaism, about what they believe in. And if you've been inspired or uplifted or touched by any of these ideas, Rabbi Sachs' notions of ethical monotheism started by Avraham, about Rabbi Sachs' notions of supporting the powerless, Jewish chosenness, all of these things that he writes about and speaks about, if you've been inspired by any of these, it is now our duty to continue on both of their legacies and the legacy of Judaism by moving these ideals forward. And number 2 is that we all have our own ideals, our own visions, our own things that we would love to see. It's not on you to finish it, but it is on you to get it started and to put in practical things into the world so that after us, generations can continue forward. And these ideals started by Avraham, continued through to this generation, now still moving them forward. It is on each of us to make sure that we're setting in place what needs to happen so that future generations can continue moving these ideals forward that will change the world.